Citroen's improved second generation C5 marries Germanic efficiency with smartly styled Gallic flair to offer medium-range Mondeo sector buyers a rather different choice that prioritises people rather than outright performance, with high technology and a silky ride.
Marketing straplines don't usually have too much foundation in reality, but with this car, the second generation Citroen C5, for once, the puff sums things up perfectly. Reassuringly German, unmistakably Citroen. The French brand clearly thinks that buyers believe Teutonic cars to be the best ones. A perception, it has to be said, that's rarely backed up by customer satisfaction surveys. But perception is everything in a market sector as closely fought as the Mondeo-sized medium-range category, where Volkswagen Passats, Renault Lagunas, Peugeot 508s, Vauxhall Insignias and a whole host of others fight it out with the iconic Ford for segment supremacy. Now, Citroen has had its moments in this class with strong-selling BX and Xantia models, but that was long ago. The first generation Citroen C5, launched in 2001, failed to replicate such success, hence the need for a sharper, higher quality feel with its successor, this car, the second generation C5, launched in 2008. Here is a design of clashing cultures. Clearly, its creators have been told to produce something Germanic. Yet, being Citroen engineers, they couldn't quite bring themselves to slavishly copy their Teutonic rivals, with the result being a car that also feels very French. Yet, even at launch, this appealing package wasn't quite enough to give the Gallic brand the attention it deserved in this category. And with improved or revised versions of virtually all key rivals since introduced, since this car was first announced, further C5 improvements in terms of sharper looks, lower running costs and higher equipment levels were needed. With these in place, can this C5 stake out more of a claim for itself in such a closely fought sector? Let's find out. Now, this isn't a car you jump into and want to hurl around the lanes. After all, it still isn't the sharpest steer in its sector. Think Renault Laguna more than Ford Mondeo. But having said that, it's probably far better suited to the kind of driving that these kinds of cars actually do. From the moment you start off, you're minded more to sit back and enjoy the ride. And ride quality is everything with this car, or at least it is if you're able to forego the conventional metallic spring and damper suspension that you get on mainstream C5 variants in favour of the magic carpet Hydractive 3 Plus suspension that's fitted to the top 2 litre and 3 litre HDI diesel variants, and that's the setup that I'm trying here. Now, it's one that's able to vary the ride height of the car as required, for example lowering it at speeds of around 70 miles an hour, and there's also a sport button down here so that you can sharpen things up as required. So equipped, your C5 will deliver easily the most comfortable ride in this class, bar none. Now, that's thanks to a setup that was originally developed for the C6 executive saloon upon which this car is based, a means of conveyance developed originally to waft French ministers along the Champs-Élysées while they reclined in the rear, perusing a copy of Paris Match. Now, serene progress that's been achieved by replacing conventional springs and dampers by spheres filled with oil and nitrogen. Now, other brands have used similar types of systems in the past, but they've been limited in only being able to vary spring rates dependent on speed and road surface. Now, this system, the Hydractive 3 setup, involves the dampers too. By using height clearance sensors on each wheel, it's able to vary the road height according to speed, road surface, and even the number of passengers on board. The result is a car that glides over speed humps and virtually ignores poor surfaces. You see road scars ahead, but you simply don't feel them. It's all very French, though thankfully without the eccentricities of French models past. So quirky on-off brakes and wildly over-assisted steering, well, they've been deleted from the menu to be replaced by smoother, more progressive systems that actually offer a decent amount of feedback should you feel the need to press on a bit. There's actually reasonable levels of grip too, and quite a responsive set of gearboxes, 5 and 6 speed manuals depending on model, a clutchless EGS setup that's got 6 speeds, and a full fat 6 speed automatic. That's the gearbox that I'm trying here, that also has a sport mode on it, this button down here, should you need to press on a bit. Under the bonnet, where this car shares most of its engine wear with Peugeot's 508, there's an overwhelming emphasis on diesel power to suit the prevailing mood of the segment. Only the BMW developed 155 brake horsepower 1.6 litre THP unit remaining from the original roster of petrol power. Otherwise it's diesel all the way, with the choice of a 110 brake horsepower 1.6 litre HDI or a 160 brake horsepower 2 litre HDI. With a 240 brake horsepower 3 litre V6 HDI, that's the variant that I'm driving here, remaining at the top of the range. Performance is more than adequate, with the 1.6 litre HDI managing rest to 60 in 11.6 seconds on the way to 118 miles an hour, and the 2 litre HDI 160 slashing that to 0 to 60 in 10 seconds on the way to 130 miles an hour. If you go for the 1.6 litre THP turbo petrol engine, you're looking at 8.6 seconds for the 0 to 60 sprint on the way to 130 miles an hour, while in this top-of-the-line V6 HDI diesel, it's 7.9 seconds from rest to 60 on the way to 151 miles an hour. Every car, I think, should have its own unique styling signature, though so few of them do. On this C5, you'll find it here at the back, with this distinctive concave rear screen. Now, it's something that makes this car look rather unique in this sector, and it's thinking that's borrowed from the largest C6 executive saloon. But while that car's finish lines can look a bit awkward from some angles, this one is far more cohesive, with deep swage lines that run down the flanks and sculpted wheel arches that produce a far more dynamic stance, even if you opt for the stylish but spacious Tourer Estate version. Now, changes to this revised second generation C5 are fairly minor, with integrated LED daytime running lights in the front headlamp unit here, and revised rear tail lights with dark crystal lenses. Now, it's a part German, part Gallic mix of styles that continues on inside, where the flush-fitting air vents and brushed aluminium door handles give a crisply Teutonic feel. But even here, there's an overriding feeling of Frenchness. The soft but supportive seats, the quirky fixed hub steering wheel aimed at helping the driver more easily access the really important features without diverting attention from the road, which kind of compensates for the way that the instruments aren't especially easy to read at first glance. There's a quality feeling to the dashboard too, though it is a little overloaded with buttons. This remains one of the bigger models in the class, something you appreciate here in the rear, where legroom is vast, even if headroom isn't especially impressive. Out back, there's also plenty of space, with a boot that measures in at 439 litres. That's even before you start pushing forward the split folding rear seats to extend it. Now, if that's not enough, then there's also a Tourer Estate version that has an extra 5 centimetres of body length, so that it can offer 505 litres in the boot area, or with the rear seats folded down, 1,462 litres. Prices for the C5 lie in the expected £20,000 to £30,000 bracket, common to this class of car, with, as usual, a premium of around £1,100 if you want the Tourer Estate version. Now, medium-range rivals to the Citroen are, of course, many and talented. Ford's Mondeo, which looks a little more affordable in petrol and pokier diesel forms, is the obvious car to beat. But similarly priced Volkswagen Passat, Vauxhall Insignia, Renault Laguna and Peugeot 508 models are perhaps closer to this C5 in the emphasis on comfort and refinement. Whichever C5 model you choose, saloon or Tourer Estate, with whichever engine, 1.6, 2 litre or this 3 litre V6 HDI diesel engine, or indeed the 1.6 THP petrol turbo, you should find your car to be well equipped. All models come with cruise control with a speed limiter, air conditioning, electric windows all round, electric heated mirrors, a leather covered steering wheel, a decent quality MP3 CD compatible stereo, a multifunction trip computer, hill start assist, an acoustic windscreen, a driver's seat height adjustment, and an AFS adaptive front lighting system that includes a cornering light able to illuminate the inside of a bend at low speed. And of course there is a whole roster of options you can choose, including everything up to a massaging function for the driver's seat. Now Citroen has developed a clever e-touch emergency and assistance system for this model. Pressing this top logo button connects you through to a call centre that can help with information and arrange breakdown cover. This bottom SOS button is for emergencies only and can activate automatically if needed in the event of an accident to use the GPS system in advising emergency services exactly where you are. Now, to decrease the likelihood of an accident, there's the full roster of safety equipment that you'd expect on this class of car, running to 7 airbags, ESP stability control, ABS brakes with electronic brake force distribution to maximise their effectiveness, and an emergency brake assist system that can help in sudden stops that you'll advertise to following motorists by automatically flashing hazard lights. Sales of Mondeo-sized medium-range models live and die these days on issues of cost of ownership or running costs. So it's no surprise to find that the French engineers have devoted much Gallic head-scratching to this issue. The most impressive results of their labours can be found in the 1.6 litre 110 brake horsepower E HDI diesel variant, which features the PSA Group's most advanced micro-hybrid technology matched to a stop and start system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, when you're waiting at the lights or when you're stuck in urban traffic. Now, the necessity of matching this package to a clutchless robotised EGS semi-automatic gearbox that can be a bit jerky until you get used to it may put some buyers off initially, but the gains look to be well worthwhile, with savings of up to 15% in fuel consumption over the standard 6-speed manual gearbox 110 brake horsepower 1.6 litre HDI C5 model, and savings of up to 5 grams per kilometre when it comes to CO2. Now that means that a C5 eHDI variant can deliver you 61.4 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and will put out no more than 120 grams per kilometre of CO2. That's the kind of return that until just a few years ago would have been normal for a small Super Mini. If you need a bit more power, the 2 litre HDI 160 model will return 139 grams per kilometre of CO2 and 53.3 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle. But if running costs aren't quite such a high priority for you, then you might want to consider the re-homologated 1.6 litre petrol and 3 litre HDI diesel variants, both of which have been tweaked for lower benefit in kind tax ratings. In terms of the 1.6, you can expect 42.2 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and to return 153 grams per kilometre of CO2, while in the case of the V6, you're looking at 39.2 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 189 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, to help owners get somewhere near those kinds of figures on a day-to-day basis, Citroen's clever e-touch emergency and assistance system can include an online eco-driving and maintenance guide. Now, this can give you tips to improve the efficiency of your driving, and it can also monitor your vehicle's maintenance needs and alert you of possible problems via a My Citroen web space. Now, in terms of depreciation, well, it's a few notches below that of mainstream rivals as the market struggles to get used to the idea of a largish Citroen with BMW standards of build quality. And in terms of insurance groups, well, you're looking at anywhere between groups 20 and 35. For all the Germanic marketing that accompanied its launch, This second generation Citroen C5 continues to remain a very Gallic choice, with this improved version continuing to build on the brand's traditional strengths, emphasising comfort, technology, good looks and a strong range of diesel engines. It's a car that's found a niche for itself in the medium-range Mondeo sector, prioritising pampering over dynamic precision, and with welcome running costs improvements now effectively handles all the basics while remaining just different enough to stand out. For all that, there'll be many who won't consider it, either simply because it's a Citroen or because there are newer or higher profile rivals that shout louder for attention, which is a pity, for this C5 is still a very likeable car for the few who'll take the time to get to know it. An informed choice then, and still a very endearing one.